Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Metra AV Tech Tips Solutions. I am Adam Rogers, and I am here to show you guys how, or show everybody who's watching this, how to use the CS-44MHDBTS. And specifically, we're going to be talking today about how the RS-232 works with the extender on the HDBaseT extension portion to it. It's got some really cool features to it, and I want to tell you about it as well. So, but before we get into that, I just want to say thank you for coming into today's episode. If you have any questions about whatever it is that I'm talking about today, feel free to leave it over here in the chat section, or you can leave it down below in the comment section after the fact if you are viewing this after it's already been recorded. So feel free to leave those there. We do monitor those comment sections, and we do respond to those as quickly as possible on those questions. So, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into what we are talking about. Let's see, I'm going to switch over here to this piece on that, and then I'm going to give myself, we're going to go to a top-down shot. All right, so this is the CS-44 HDBTS. So this unit here, of course, is a single rack unit, tall piece. It does come with feet, so if you want to stand it on some kind of cabinet or something like that, you can, but it is rack mountable, and that's primarily where you're going to be using it. We have the buttons here on the front of it, so you can control it directly. You do not have to pair this with an automation system. However, you can. We have Crestron control for RTI, URC, and a bunch of different drivers and modules that you can use to tie this system in with those automation systems. It's got an on-screen interface here, so you can actually see what's going, or pardon me, it has its own little display here, so you can see what inputs and outputs are currently being used, as well as get information like IP address and other items like that. It does have an IR control on it as well, so you can use IR to control this unit. It comes with a pretty basic remote to control this unit directly, or you can get the IR commands off of our website and tie them into whatever automation system you're using. Here on the back of it, this is where all the magic happens. So here we have our 4 HDMI inputs, and we have all of our IR in and IR outs, because of course we can matrix the IR commands, so we can send an IR command across the HDBaseT connection to the HDBaseT receiver on its piece as well. Then of course we have IR out, because we can receive an IR command from the TV location and output it here at the matrix to control whatever device we need to. We've got our HDMI outputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as mirrored HDBaseT outputs. So, of course, output 1, we have an HDMI and an HDBaseT output. The same goes for 2, 3, and 4 as well. We also have audio outputs, and this does break out the audio from the HDMI inputs, and it is matrixable, so you can control where the audio goes. We have a stereo output as well as a digital toslink output, or pardon me, a digital coax output. Now, one thing to note about this piece here, it does not do down mixing, so if you need to have a Dolby audio and you need to break out the stereo audio, be aware that you will lose your Dolby audio capabilities on this, because it does not do the down mixing. You have to pick one or the other. Over here we have our web control. This is where our LAN port's going to go to. It's just an RJ45. We have our RS-232 control input, and we have our RS-232 HDBaseT input and output as well. Those are two separate connections, because that way you can simply tell your control system, if you want to control this device directly, use this RS-232 connection, and of course it's using just a DB9 female connection. And of course we have the TX and RX on the HDBaseT, which is using a Phoenix connector instead, so you can differentiate that a little bit better. This unit does require a 48-volt power supply, which is included in the box, so it's a really, it's kind of a dedicated piece to that, and it's got its own shape and style, so you don't mix it up with any other kind. And back over here at the beginning, we do have a grounding connection to put this inside of a rack of some kind and ground the chassis of this unit to whatever you need to ground it to. So it's highly recommended you do that. It helps to keep everything grounded and working correctly. I want to show you the HDBaseT receiver as well before we talk about what else they are capable of. So on this HDBaseT receiver, and I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see this a little bit better. So on this piece here, we have, of course, the HDMI output. There's a little signal light to tell you if you're getting signal or not. Has an audio breakout on the HDBaseT receiver. This is really handy if you have some kind of sound bar or other amplifier at the site of the TV. You can break out left-right audio and send it into whatever it is you need to get audio on. Has an IR in and an IR out. Of course, like I said before, you can send an IR signal from the matrix to the TV, or you can send it from the TV back to the matrix. And so you do have that capability on it as well. On the back side, this is where the HDBaseT port is. Of course, it's just a standard RJ45 input. We have a power LED, and we have our RS-232 Phoenix connector on here as well. So this is a really great unit for that purpose, and you also have the capabilities on this to send full 18 gig 4K 60, 444, all that kind of good stuff. So it is an 18 gig capable matrix. You can also send 4K 60 HDR up to 70 meters on the HDBaseT extender portion to it. Now, like I said before, the HDMI and the HDBaseT are mirrored outputs. So whatever you were watching on output 1 of the HDMI, you are also watching that same thing on the HDBaseT output. One difference between the two, though, is that they are both capable of 4K. However, the HDMI output can actually upscale from 1080p to 4K, and the HDBaseT output can downscale from 4K down to 1080p. So that really helps out in case you have like a 1080p display in one of the kids' bedrooms, but you've got a 4K display in the master suite or in the living room. So you can go ahead and make sure that everything is able to watch the same piece of source material on both displays. And it works really well, and there's no time delay or anything like that between them. So you get really good, you get the audio sync with it as well. So some of the other really cool features that this has before we talk about the RS-232 control, it has built-in EDID management. Brent and I did a really great episode on EDID management and why it's important. This was kind of the star of the show for that episode, because this has EDID management built directly into it. So all 4 inputs can have different EDID information for each one. So if you have a source device that you need to say, hey, you are only 1080p, you can do that. And then you can say another source, hey, you're connected to a 4K display, you can do that as well. You can also copy the EDID information from the TVs that are connected to this and send that EDID information back to the source device. That's important when it comes to certain devices. Samsung's a really good big one on that, to make sure that you connect the correct EDID information back to the source device. That's really important for those types of devices. Let's see, what else can I tell you about it before we get into the others? Of course, it supports all the HDCP versions all the way up to and including version 2.2, and we are working on an update to include 2.3 as well. So keep in mind on that. So here's some really cool things that you can do with this. One, you've got a web browser portion to this, so you can actually sign into this over a web browser. Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, any of the major web browsers are supported. So you can log in and control this device directly through a web browser. That's also where you can change EDID information for the different inputs and select some other options as well, as like matrixing the audio. You can also control this over RS-232. Like I said before, on the back of the unit, it's got a DB9 connection to control this directly. But the really interesting part about the RS-232 is that you can send a command from your control system to the matrix and have the matrix send out an RS-232 command to a piece of equipment that's somewhere else. And that's where the HDBaseT receiver comes into play. It actually has an RS-232 output on it, or input. It's an RxTX, so you can send and receive information from whatever device is there. And what you can do is send a specific command from the matrix to that device. The RX and TX output on the matrix itself, that's actually a feedback from this unit here. So if you want to send a control to, say, a commercial television or a commercial monitor of some kind, you can do that with this here. All you have to do is set up a certain string of commands on it. If you look at the manual for this device, and all I did was just print this off of the website, feel free to do that. MetraHomeTheater.com currently is the website. However, soon it will be MetraAV.com. So take a look at that. But all you have to do is just make sure that we tell the device what the address is, which output it's connected to, and then of course then we send the command. So let's draw that out so you can see what that kind of looks like here. So I'm going to go here to a top-down shot and get my markers here. Okay, so here's what this looks like. We're going to start off an RS-232 command like this. And now I'm just going to use the little cheat sheet here that's inside the manual. So I'm just going to write this out so you all can see it a little bit better. We're going to go to AXX, which the XX stands for the address of the device. Now this is the device address of the matrix. All right. From here, we're going to do a constant placeholder of set. This is a command that's in there that never changes. So you're going to do address XX and then set. From there, we're going to do a placeholder for RS-232. So there's going to be a space, and then we're going to do RS. This needs to be in there as well. And then from here, we're going to set the path, PTH. And then from that point, another space, and we're going to say output X, and this X here, this stands for whichever output. So let's say, for instance, we have output 3. So we're going to type in 3 for that one. Then from there, we're going to send the following length command. So we're going to do len. By the way, there's a space here as well. len and then X, because that's however long the next command is for that. And then we, of course, need to also send a space and the baud rate. And then, of course, the X there stands for whatever the baud rate is for the following command. Now, once we have typed in all that information from there, let's see. From there, we then send whatever command that we need to send. So whether it's, you know, an 8-character command, or if it's like Brent was saying, if it's like machine code or whatever it is, then we send that code on the end of this command here. And that will then have the matrix itself send that command out to whatever device it needs to send. It's a really great feature with this matrix to be able to do that. It gives you a lot of control capabilities if you have, say, for instance, a Crestron system that you need to control an RS-232 device on the other end of it. And it's a really great tool case to use with that. Of course, you do have all the standard RS-232 commands that are built into the matrix as well. Highly recommend going online, downloading these commands that we have for it, and kind of familiarize yourself with it before you go out to the job site, and make sure it's going to do everything that you need it to do. Now, of course, feel free to reach out to us here at Tech Support. We are more than happy to help out with any of the command structures or anything that you are trying to do. Of course, the best way to reach us right now is at our direct line, 386-492-8584 is the best way to reach out to us for tech support. Or you can shoot us an email. You can email me directly at adam.rogers@metraav.com. Or you can email Brent as well. I know he's not in today's episode, but you can email him at brent.mccall@metraav.com as well. So feel free to give us a call about all that information that's going on with these matrices. If you're designing a system, give us a call beforehand so we can help spec it out for you. As well as if you're running into problems because you've already put this in and you've got something going on, feel free to reach out to us so we can help you out with that as well. So, of course, I am Adam Rogers. I have been your host today to talk about the Metra AV Tech Tips Solutions. We have talked about the CS-44MHDBTS as well as the CS-REC-HDBT receiver that goes along with it. So, contact your sales rep for availability and pricing, or contact your distributor for the same thing as well, so you can get more information about that. So, thank you everybody for checking us out today, and we'll see you next time at Metra AV Tech Tips Solutions. Have a good one.